Hey everybody, live back at you with the Rhino. Going to be sharing this with the page real quick, and then we're going to jump right into this one. There we go. Bear with me just a second. To make sure that everybody that wants to come on can, and we're going to get right into this. And there shall be light. So, yeah. I just wanted to do something a little different today. Bear with me, I'm moving the camera. There we go, cool. So now we can see it. Now I know this one's a little more animated in style than what you guys are used to from my work, but I'm trying to get more expressive with my characters. And I got a little dry in my comic pages and stuff, and I wanted to pick it up a little bit and do a little more relaxed style in my work because of the fact that I just wanted to add some more personality to it and get back to basics, because I was getting a little what I felt was a little redundant in it, and I don't want to do all headshots and whatnot, so I thought this would be really cool and be a nice change of pace. So getting right back into the comic stuff. Workload. Hashtag workload. There we go. Make it fun for the kiddies. The cool thing about this one is this is a classic Rhino. I'm not going as far back as, making him a pudgester, as my daughter calls him, pudgester. And it was because of the fact that he was such a big guy, and they used to draw him really rounded and heavy set and bulky. With the old style, it was like the old 50s or 60s style wrestler, where if you had bulk, you were considered muscular and big. Not necessarily that you were fat, but it wasn't buff muscle, like the beach body type bodybuilders, or common superhero fashion, where it's really lean muscle. And this guy is just massive, period. So, and then the costume adds to him because it's got armor plating and all that in it. And I like the one with the shoulder pads. I'm going to go old school like Todd McFarlane used to. That was one of my favorite renditions. When he worked on Spider-Man, one of my favorite characters of all time in Marvel Comics was when he did his version of the Rhino and of Scorpion, because he would block out Scorpion to make him really buff and then put the suit in segments. He was the first one to really segment the suit and make it like almost football pad style on him. And he did the same thing with Rhino, and that's where the influence for that comes from. So whenever I draw Rhino, you guys may see a little bit of Greg Capullo or Todd McFarlane influence in there. And the reason for that is because of the fact of the style that I'm really influenced by those artists. Now I'm putting kind of these bumps, like not necessarily mini spikes or anything like that. It's just kind of these protrusions that rhinos have on their back. They're like bumps in their skin, and they're like miniature horns. It's bony protrusions, and they make little knobs like that. And I like to add those on there, and I put those on the shoulder pads. So, but I like to make the pads on the shoulders really defined as armor. I mean, that's one of the segments that really tore it apart for me as a kid in the early 90s when I would see McFarlane draw it. And, he used to draw like this football style shoulder pad that went across the chest and whatnot. I'm not going to go that extreme with it. I just don't see that. I don't want to mimic him. I take strict precautions in my influences, and not want to become not wanting to become a clone artist, because I hate that. I hate copycat artists. I don't think that's cool when you steal somebody else's style. You should be influenced by everybody that you enjoy, absolutely, but you shouldn't take their style and their craft and steal it, you know what I mean? But like I said, I get complimented on it all the time, and I know I have a lot of influence from those guys, and I see it in my art, and I know it's there. And if you guys compliment me on it, that's awesome. I appreciate that, but I'm not trying to be the next Todd McFarlane by any means. Not that that would be a bad thing, because the dude's like a millionaire. I mean, he messes, with big money, big money. But it's one of those things where I like to take my influences and incorporate them into my work as common practice. And, back when Greg Capullo did Spawn, before he went back to his original Marvel style, which was really clean, that he did for Batman, everybody's like, well, that's his new style. No, it's not. He reverted back to his first style. First off, let me explain. He had a really clean line like he did in Batman, but the inks weren't quite as clean because he didn't do a lot of the ink work back then for his stuff. But if you look at his old X-Force stuff, right after Liefeld and Larson and all those guys moved over to Image, Greg hadn't left yet. And if you look at his stuff from X-Force, you'll see the Batman clean line minimalist style that he had. I've mentioned that before on here. Check that out, and you'll see that where it developed. And then he went into the McFarlane style, where he pulled everything out and got really three-dimensional and used Todd's layouts and style to build his own branch of that. And then his style got really slick with this three-dimensional stuff that he was doing. And I mean, it was movie animation grade, film animation grade. And it was just crazy, the stuff that he was doing in Spawn at the end. And he decided to go back to his roots with the Batman book. It had to be cleaner and more, simplistic and solid, and represent a clear crime book. And that's what he wanted to get away from, the heavy detail stuff from Spawn for a while, because he didn't want to just bring the look of what he did at Spawn over to DC for Batman. So that you got to respect that. But my personal style is, very clean, like his more a clean and animated version of his influence inspired me for like the over exaggerated stuff, like this mouth here that's over exaggerated. I know that's from him. This little ripple here where it's not kind of anatomically correct, it's more exaggerated. That kind of thing is what I picked up from him. And, I picked it up from other artists as well, but primarily from Todd and Greg over the years. And I just wanted to get stuff going, but I don't want it to be, another version of Spawn or, like the Spawn look of a book or whatever. I have my own style. But if you see those influences in the artwork, I'm trying to get back a little more to the animated stuff and the more expressive stuff that I started with, because of the fact that, I didn't want to do headshots, and I got a little boring there for a while for what I felt. So I wanted to get into more of the action stuff. And that's what I did with the He-Man pieces, the Skeletor, He-Man jumbo pieces that I did the last couple of days. And then you got a couple of things coming up here pretty quick that you guys are going to get to enjoy like that. So we're going to get back into some comic book looking stuff. And we're going to do my rendition, even though they won't exist in the next year or so, outside of the Disney cartoon properties, whatever they decide to do there, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So that was the mood I was in today. I just wanted to knock something out and have some fun with it, and bring something to the table that you guys hadn't seen in a little bit, and say, boo, there it is, I've got something really cool coming up too. It it begins with how should I put this? It begins with Vol and ends with Tron, coming up here pretty quick. And I'm going to be sticking with the comic stuff here pretty heavy, but I'm going to do a short set of the Paladins and the Lions as well. I'm going to throw that in the mix here in the next few cards. But anyway, just thought I'd give you guys a sneak peek at that. You know, I was talking offline about how I do the layouts and stuff, because today I wasn't sure which one I was going to go with. If I was going to go with the classic Green Lantern, the Golden Age, or if I was going to do Rhino. And before I asked a couple people real quick, and before they could answer, I already had this knocked out. I set the timer and knocked it out. And just so you guys know what I mean by that, when I say I set the timer, I give myself an average of 90 seconds on the timer. I have a digital timer here on my computer, and I give it a 90-second run, okay? And the reason I do that is so that I can get this layout out immediately, and whatever's there is there. But it forces me not to think about overthinking the design too much, and it allows me to kick it out and get it done so that I can move on to the next thing for you guys. You know, and I do that in everything. Now, the bigger cards like the Skeletor and the He-Man and the Juggernaut piece that I did and the Mum-Ra piece, you know, some of those bigger things, I give myself about 2 minutes. I give myself, you know, an extra 30 seconds or so. And then I start with 5 extra seconds on the timer so that I can pick up my pencil and get started. And from the time that I hit that 90 seconds or that, you know, that 120 seconds, man, I'm just grinding away, just sketching out the expression, sketching out the form and all that, and getting it down on the paper. So what you see at the end of the day with these cards, you know, you can tell when I've had a slow day, and I'll admit that, and now you guys will know. But whenever I have a slow day going on or I'm in a lull, you'll see something that's not quite as detailed. And the reason is because I've had like an artist block, or, you know, I've been drawing all day and I'm fried, or writing or consulting all day, and, you know, that wears me out too. And you'll be able to tell that because there won't be quite as much detail in some of these other cards. So, I mean, that tends to happen. It really does. And that's the reason I give myself that timer, because it forces me to kick out a decent card where you guys can get that going on. I mean, some people would say this isn't detailed a lot, but the thing is it actually is. And I flesh these things out to know tomorrow, as you guys know. So, but that's where it's at right now. That's where it's at. But, and some people ask me why I didn't go for, when I decided to do this and shared it, some people asked me why I didn't go for the modern Ultimate Spider-Man Sinister 6 with the mech look. No. I like that, and it's cool with the biometrics, you know, the armor, and then the classic cybernetic tubing kind of thing going on. It looks great. It looks great. It really does. It's just for this card series, that's not the Rhino that I know and the one that I enjoy to draw. I mean, I would if I got contracted to do that, but it's not something that I'm really going to throw a lot of effort into learning that particular character, because it's not one that I know very well. And I like to do stuff that I can show you guys, you know, the artwork. I can showcase everything going on. I mean, I don't want to get in there and just blast something out that looks campy because I didn't do the homework. So, you know, it's not that I don't like the stuff. It's just that if it doesn't resonate with me and I'm not a follower, a hardcore follower of it right now, it may not be something that I've really drawn a lot. Because I had it pointed out to me by one of my younger students, one of my art students, that he's changed and had the mech armor right after the Ultimate Spider-Man Sinister 6 series came out, and it was different, and he asked me if I was going to draw that or not, and I was like, I don't know. It looks cool. It really does. I think it's long overdue for an update for this armor. But I don't know if I'm the one to draw it or not. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. You know what I mean? I see a lot of artists doing that lately. They draw just because they can, instead of the fact that they should or shouldn't draw it. And I see that a lot where these guys go in and they don't have a style yet. And they're saying, look, I'm a comic artist. And they draw stuff and it's just, oh my gosh. They should not be drawing that kind of thing because their style doesn't match, you know, that genre or whatever. And I'm not one to tell anyone they shouldn't do something, like I said, you know, but I mean, if you know you're an action adventure artist, that's cool. Draw action adventure stuff, you know, but I mean, if your stuff looks Victorian, like a children's book, I would reconsider drawing superhero comics. I'm just saying. But I don't want to contradict myself because I've said flat out, you know, you do your own thing, period. And I still stand by that. If that's what you want to do and that's your style, then and you want to draw a comic book and you want to kick it out there, I'm not anybody to say any different. I can't guarantee that I'll be a fan of it because it doesn't match in my mind. But still, nonetheless, if that's what you want to do, do it. Okay. Got to put in this leg here. Now, I'm not going to give him underoos because this is a full body suit and the dude doesn't have them. But what I am going to do is I'm going to give him a crease in the thigh right there to show where that bends because he's raising his leg up. And I want it to look that way. So we'll darken that out. And we'll go in with a highlight on that side. Yeah, he's coming off really fast. Put in that back jaw. You guys' ear turned up a little bit because his head's squished in the costume. So we'll put that there and put in the faux ridge of the Rhino eye, which does go behind the ear, believe it or not. It goes right into the eye socket just like that right there. Which always was funny to me because that's not anatomically correct because the ear goes back a little bit on a real rhino. But that's the way the costume was always done. So that's the way I'm sticking with it. I'm going to keep it going, people. I'm going to put a little ridge right here to show that fold in the back of his head to his neck where he leans back into the costume. Now you guys can see that pop-up thing. There you go. You're welcome. I'm going to put this crease down in here where this looks like it's turning a little bit off the top of his shoulders over here into the back. Now, when you get into this stuff, be careful because this has a leathery rubber type of in the comics where it doesn't in practical armor. For like, say, you know, the mech stuff they did with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, if you saw that. Hope I didn't spoil that for anybody. But Rhino appears in that for a split second. And it's just one of those things, you know, if you catch that, that's awesome. If not, that's fine too. But be sure and study your textures and things like that so you know how to make that stuff look like fabric and whatnot. Because see, that right there just makes it look like it's really layered and overstretched like it's supposed to because this armor is over plates in the back right here. And by doing this, it gives it a shadow side. Ding! Yeah, awesome. Cool and deal. I'm going to put this one right here. And then I'm going to put one right over here so that shoulder looks like it's got one too. I'm going to thicken that line up just a little because I want that separate. Yeah, that works. And these are big chest pads right here, so he's not gonna. But it's like I said, I didn't want to do the McFarlane style, you know, football pads that run across. These are segments on his chest, so I'm gonna leave it like that. But what I am gonna do is go a different direction than the shading that's already there to kind of shake it up a little bit on this underside. So it pops up, bing. Now he's got a chest. He's got pectorals. And a little ridge down here. Start about there. Put those periodically. Say a little over there, a little over there. And then we're going to go right in here to make that rib cage come out a little bit, up over those abs. I'm going to do that and do that one that way so it's a different muscle. Add a little segment, divide there. Now, if this was a little wider, I would do that there as well, but I'm not, so I'll leave that alone. But what I will do is come in to break this up to give the bicep a double curve so that it looks like it's really popping up, and he's got a, you know, just a huge arm, which he does. Do it right here like this. Do that segment right there so that it shows the curve shadowing a little bit, then the highlight underneath where the muscles get lit up from the bottom. It shows that divot where the tricep and the bicep separate, and that little muscle's in the shadow right there that runs in between. And then you got this curve of the bicep. Now how you make that pop up is like this, right in the middle, because you got a highlight on either side. You go right in the middle, just off center. You don't want to put it right dead down the middle, but you want to put it just off a little bit, and it gives it a dark zone right there at the peak of that curve. So now it's got light, 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 and that muscle sticking out in a shadow point at the lowest point of the arm. I don't know why that works so well, because as an illusion, it shouldn't work. It really should, but it does. It really does. Especially on armor like this, it balances it out, as you can see it going across. Now I'm going to come in under this chest plate right here and offset that just a little. And right up underneath, I want that to be black for a shadow of that armor. And right under here, go with the curve of the pec, go back up, and then cut back. Now this is one of the pieces that I probably line the most of all of the cards out here. And the reason is because of the fact that this, like I said, it's got a leathery, rubbery texture to it, and I want it to look that way. And that's the kind of light it does. It's a broken light. It's not solid, so you wouldn't go solid black on it, because then it would look polished. And if you want it polished, it's not going to have that gun leather look that he has for the Rhino skin. It will look awkward. Now, because of this one going that way, I'm going to flip it. That's going to go right up underneath there as a hard shadow, because that is the arm itself right there. So, ding. Now we're going to go down here and mess with his face a little bit. I'm going to be very cautious here because I don't want to over detail this. Come right out of his eye there for the eyelid. Pop that out just a little. Give it a little depth like he's got tired eyes. And pop this up just a little. Like I said, I wanted to add a little more life to him with this one, so that's what we're getting here. A little shadow underneath that lip. Make it pop up a little. Right down under here too. I don't want him to look like he's wearing lipstick. That would make it awkward. Now I'm going to put this ridge right here for the edge of the mask on the chin. And because he's clutching his face and jaw out of whack, it's going to make it look like it's kind of sticking out there awkward and off center. And I want that to look that way because of the fact that I'm going to add this little funky undershadow right here. That's going to make it pop out and go bing, there's something on his face. So you guys can see that. A little bit of an undershadow under his nose there. And right up here on this brow, I'm going to add something that nobody ever puts in for some reason. I'm going to put a raised edge for it to like fold down on his forehead and add a shadow right there, because the reason is because this tilts to match the rest of his brow, and nobody ever adds that little edge for the mask, you know, like it should stick out over and protrude a little bit, because I mean it's a three-dimensional thing on his face and it should stick out and have an edge because it is a mask on his face. And if you stick it out just a little bit and add that lip, it adds a whole nother dimension to the fit, and it looks like armor that way. And it has more of a strategic or tactical look rather than just a bad spandex costume. And that's just one of those things nobody does. So if you're drawing these guys, make sure to add in that little effect like that. If he's wearing a costume, add a little edge to it. Show that there's something there, something beefy there, you know, something with contrast there and texture and raised edges. Because if you do that, it'll give you an entirely different feel and look for the character. Now, the reason I'm segmenting this off is because I'm not going to draw all those muscles in, but what I am going to do is I'm going to put this divot right here on his forearm to show the contrast of light so that we can do this. Because that way you don't have to draw in all the forearm muscles. Because this makes it slick here because you can't see all the muscles. Slick here. It's kind of a dense fabric that's over him, so you want to have that going on. And then when you come in and do the contrast down here, like highlight right there, because that's supposed to be the fold on his pelvis. So you're going to have a highlight right there, you know, in his hip kind of thing without giving him underoos. And then you can make the costume crease right there like that's a dark spot. And then for the leg, you come up from the other side and you do this. And that gives the start of the shadow on the inside of the leg. So there you go. And the bad thing is take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not really good at this. So shadow and light's not really my forte, especially anatomically, because you have to go in and figure out what edge you want to highlight on each side of every piece of flesh, every piece of bone, every piece of this, that, and the other. And with costumes and stuff, it's really easy because fabrics are pretty much universal in the way that they work. I mean, you know, that rubber leather look, that polished look, the thicker stuff, it tends to either be a gradation or a smooth abstract, one or the other. Put in the impression that his knuckles are showing up just a little bit, because this is thick stuff, but you want them to show just a little because there's tension there on the fabric. So it gives just a minor peak. And then we'll go old schools. Yep, plural. Because there's so many different variations on this one, from the 70s to the 80s, and then to the 80s to the 90s. But I'm going to just go and line this out. There you go. So now we have the majority in here, which I didn't finish up this. A little bit of shadow. Now we have it. Gotta solidify that tear duct right there. And right up under here, like I said, I don't want to over detail the face here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit of this thing right here, this little pop, because of the eyelid. And the Rhino is a really rough looking guy. So there we go. Cool deal. Hope you guys dig this. I'm going to put in a little bit of scratch, wear and tear. On that, those shoulder pads, and then I'll define that horn a little more because I want to pick up on that. But yeah, this is going to be it for the day. This is where we are at. Kind of add in those ridges right there. Make that horn look a little more dense. There we go, right there. Okay, now with that one said, I'm going to leave it alone because I don't want to mess with it. And I'm getting detail overload, and I'm wanting to go in and just render the crap out of this thing, and that's a technical term. So I'm going to have to back away slowly and walk away. Otherwise, this thing's going to be, it's just boom. But hope you guys dig it. So that's where we're at right now. And like I said, here in the next little bit, got a couple of pieces for, like I said, some particular character you may know, runs around with a lot of lions, starts with Vol and ends with Tron, and I'm going to do a couple pieces on that. I've got a couple of Ninja Turtle pieces by request to do some of the villains and stuff, and some of the extra cast, which I decided, yes, I'm going to do that. I've been getting 3 or 4 requests about that over the last couple of weeks, and I've decided to add that to the list. Also, something up real quick is the King Kong Godzilla piece. I did decide to do that. I'm going to work on that this weekend. It's still early in the week for that yet, but we'll get to it. I'm going to start designing on that in the next day or two and see exactly where we're at. So we can probably get that for Saturday or Sunday for you guys. Also, got a couple other things coming on. Where's my list? Where's my list? What did I do with my list? I think I put it in a drawer here. Yeah. Okay, cool. I have, let's see. I have a couple more Transformers coming up that I didn't finish that I'm going to go back to. I have a couple of Tiger Sharks on the list. I have some Golden Age characters that I'm going to be doing from DC Comics. And I have the Metal Men coming up very soon from DC as well. I love those guys. They're very underrated. If you don't know who they are, you're going to find out real soon. Due to a friend of mine's special request, I've added the Power Rangers to the list as well. Mr. Rusty Gilligan. Got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and then a lot of comic characters mixed in there as well. So we're going to get back to this and keep these cards going. for at least for the time being. And that's what I got, folks. So if you have anything going on, message me and let me know, and I'll see if I can get your request going. But until then, take care, smile, say hi to somebody, be nice, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.